Hi everyone, and welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And we're on day 2 of our article about Taijiang National Park, which, as we read yesterday, is near Tainan City down in the south of Taiwan.
Yeah, it's true. I often think of Tainan as a great place to learn about the history of Taiwan, but you can also see some wonderful natural beauty there in this lovely national park that's quite new. What would you see in Taijiang National Park? You'd see beautiful natural features and some rare natural features are more unusual for Taiwan. You'll find wetlands there, sandbanks, lagoons, and lots of interesting animals that make their homes in these areas, like wetlands. Fiddler crabs, spoonbills, mud skippers, all sorts of unusual and interesting animals to see.
Now, yesterday we learned that the park is really big. In terms of the area it covers, it's bigger than Taipei City. There you go. That's a comparison to see how big it is.
Almost 400 square meters.
However, a lot of it is underwater. It's wetlands, it's lagoons, so it's really big, but you won't be able to walk over all of it.
That's right. It became a national park in 2009.
So quite recently.
So as we said, it's a fairly new national park. And the government now, the national government, now that it's a national park, they want to protect 3 main things about the park going into the future. The natural resources, such as the salt and the fish, those fiddler crabs and mud skippers need to be protected. The environmental geography, keep the wetlands wetlands. A lot of people who build luxury hotels like to come in, drain the wetlands because they're often near the coast, build a big hotel, but then of course the frogs and birds and insects and other animals that live in those wetlands, they're gone. So we don't want that to happen. We've got to protect the environmental geography and also the culture and history of this area. As we said, Tainan is one of the oldest cities and towns in Taiwan, so you can imagine that there's been people living and working in this area long before we can remember. So that's why the culture and history are worth remembering and protecting.
Yep, we've got a few more particular parts of the national park to look at in day 2 of our article. So let's read through that right now.
Reading.
There's so much to see at Taijiang National Park. Taijiang National Park's rich nature is firmly on display in the Sitzhao Mangrove Green Tunnel, also known as Little Amazon. The trees on either side of the water have grown toward the center, creating a green ceiling. A boat ride through the tunnel is provided for tourists. This ride is an experience you'll likely never forget. The boat begins at the Sitzhao Dazhong Temple. From there, as your boat moves through the thick tunnel of trees, it appears that the tunnel has no end. This gives an air of mystery to the whole adventure. While you travel, you hear the sounds of birds and insects and see mud skippers and fiddler crabs. You've almost completed your passage when you reach the main event. There are beautiful trees, clearly reflected in the calm water below. The actual world and the mirror world below combine to create the shape of a lip or an eye. Some call it the angel's kiss, while others call it green eye. No matter what you call it, it's absolutely stunning.
All right, so the article for today begins, Taijiang National Park's rich nature is firmly on display in the Sitzhao Mangrove Green Tunnel, also known as Little Amazon. Well, I don't know what this is, but I want to check it out because both of those names are very interesting. The Mangrove Green Tunnel and Little Amazon. These are some of the most interesting things on display in the national park. So if something is on display, well, it's easy to be seen. In fact, someone has probably put it in a place to bring your attention to it, to let you see it. If we want to put something on display, we want people to come gather around, look at it, enjoy it, learn from it. If you go to a museum like the National Palace Museum, that famous green cabbage will always be on display. It will always be in a place, probably in an important central room in the museum. Everyone who visits it will come and see that. They can walk around, experience it. They want it to be seen, so the people who run the museum put their best art on display for the public to look at and enjoy.
Okay, so this, what was it? Green mangrove tunnel?
Green mangrove tunnels.
Yeah. A mangrove, this is a type of tree that grows in either slightly salty water near the coast or kind of slightly earthy water. You tend to find it where rivers are coming down and emptying out into the sea, along the coast, those areas. They usually grow in large areas and they support a great deal of life, of natural life. They also do useful things like kind of cleaning the water, providing like drinking water. They're good fishing areas. They're really important areas of land. So this is the Green Mangrove Tunnel. But what do we mean by tunnel?
Yeah, this is an interesting kind of tunnel. So let's talk about this word. Now, a tunnel is generally something that is made by people, maybe by engineers, as they dig a long hole through a mountain in order to travel through or under that mountain. They'll build a road or put train tracks in the tunnel after digging the tunnel out or blowing it up with explosions and things like that. If you're trying to get from one place to another and there's a big mountain in your way, the best way for engineers to do that is just to cut through the tunnel or cut through the mountain using a tunnel. If you drive out of Taipei, you generally have to drive through a tunnel. If you're taking a train in Taiwan, you'll often take a tunnel, especially if you're going down to Hualien and Yilan and places like that with lots of mountains. So that's a tunnel. And of course, MRTs, these subways, will also run through tunnels underneath the city. But here, we're talking about a mangrove tunnel. So this isn't something that's been built by engineers. It hasn't been cut through rock. A tunnel can also be a passageway, somewhere where you walk or drive, but it's covered in some kind of way. And in this case, it's covered with the trees. The branches and leaves of the trees kind of grow together. They meet at the top, but there's enough space for you to go through underneath them. But it's almost like when you look up, you can't see the sky, as if you are in a real rock tunnel in a mountain. But this, of course, is a tunnel made of trees and branches. Here's another example of a tunnel that was made by people and not through a mountain. The bride and groom ran out of the church through a tunnel made by their friend's arms. Aw, how romantic. So this tunnel is a tunnel created by nature and not by people.
Right.
Okay.
You might be wondering, well, what is it? How does it work? What does it look like? The article explains the trees on either side of the water have grown toward the center, creating a green ceiling.
There you go. And how would you travel through this tunnel underneath this green roof or ceiling? A boat ride through the tunnel is provided for tourists. I think we've probably seen films or nature programs with people in the Amazon or going through jungle rivers in, I don't know, Vietnam or something. And the trees are growing together so tight, but they're rowing their little boat through there. Very exotic and exciting and a beautiful thing to see as a tourist. And that's what tourists want to do. A tourist is a sightseer, a vacationer, someone who is traveling not for some personal reason, personal business, or real business, but they're traveling for fun. They're going on a holiday. They're going to look at cool stuff, do a bit of shopping, eat in some wonderful restaurants, and then go back home and tell all their friends about what a great time they had on holiday in somewhere, because they're tourists. They like to see interesting landmarks and special places as a way of traveling for pleasure and enjoyment. For example, tourists will line up around the block to get into the Sherlock Holmes Museum in London. Oh, tourists love that place.
Yeah, and I guess I'm a bit of a tourist in London, but I've been there 2 or 3 times. That place.
You got to go really early in the morning before it opens.
It was, when I went, it was not that busy. Maybe it's just got a lot more popular due to like the TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So this ride, this boat trip through the tunnel, is an experience you'll likely never forget, as the article says.
All right.
We then read the boat begins at the Sicao Temple.
Okay.
So, makes sense, yeah. You'd have to have somewhere to put the boats. You need a building. So this is a probably old temple somewhere out in the national park. And this is where you get on the boat ride. You can see, obviously, it's going to have great architecture, a beautiful temple, and then you're on your way.
All right, it's a big park, so it's a good to know where to go to get on this boat ride. And from there, from the Sicao Temple, as your boat moves through the thick tunnel of trees, it appears that the tunnel has no end. Wow, so it's not just 50 or 60 meters of this river, this water that is covered. It actually twists and turns. That sounds quite interesting. So once you get in it, because of the way it turns, you can't actually see the end. You're just surrounded by this green tunnel. How exciting.
Yeah, now that sentence we just read used today's language in focus, so let's take a moment to examine it more closely. So that sentence used the phrase, it appears that, or we could also say something appears followed by the to plus verb form. And both of these patterns are used to show how something looks. It's how it seems or how it appears to be. When you use your eyes to look at it, this is what your eyes sense. This is what you see. Now, it doesn't mean that what you're seeing is 100% real or true. It's just how it looks. Of course, the tunnel has an end. People aren't trapped in there forever. But when you're in it, it doesn't look like it does. Now, we can say the tunnel appears to have no end. This puts the emphasis on the tunnel. And we can say it appears that the tunnel has no end when we want to put more emphasis on the way the tunnel appears. In a sentence like this, it is a dummy pronoun. It doesn't actually refer to a person or a thing. Here's another example. It appears that John is in a good mood as he's smiling. We could also say, John appears to be in a good mood. We're just changing the focus of the sentence based on which way round we put the pattern. So you're going down this thick green tunnel and it appears to have no end at all.
Absolutely. It would be like you're on some kind of jungle mystery experience. As it says, this gives an air of mystery to the whole adventure. Mystery because you don't know where you're going. You don't know what's around the next corner. It has a feeling that maybe something dangerous could happen. Maybe a crocodile will jump out of the river into your boat. You don't know. But that's what a mystery is. A mystery is basically a situation where we don't know the answer, where we have many questions, where maybe the truth is being hidden from us. When we read or watch mysteries, we're often watching a story about a crime, and the whole point of the story is to find out who killed the person, who murdered the rich old man in the big old house with 9 people staying there at the same time, that kind of thing. Or we can just talk about things in life where everything isn't well lit, everything isn't kind of explained to us. Things are left to your imagination or left to give you a little bit of a puzzle to try to figure out. So we kind of like mysteries some of the time because it's fun to kind of not know what's going to happen. But I think if you had mystery in your life all the time, you might just be nervous constantly because living in a mystery might not be fun, but experiencing it or having it having it as a fun activity can be very enjoyable. Here's something else that can give a feeling of mystery. The dark lighting and soft candlelight gave the little restaurant a feeling of mystery. There are people sitting in the corner, but I can't even see who they are. Never mind what they're talking about. It's a lot of mystery, or to use the adjective mysterious.
So the whole adventure then is the boat trip. The boat trip is an adventure. An adventure is an exciting, it could be a thrilling and possibly dangerous experience. You're going somewhere new. You're not quite sure what's going to happen. You're experiencing different things. You don't know how it's going to end. You don't know 100% how it's going to be safe. Books and movies are often full of people going on some kind of adventure. If you arrived in a new country and you just went, okay, I'm just going to go wherever, I'm going to do whatever I feel like at the time, I don't know where I'm going to stay tonight or what I'm going to eat for dinner, that would be a kind of an adventure. If you went on a boat and went up the Amazon, you would be going on a very exciting adventure.
Yeah.
Here's another sentence. Julian had many adventures while canoeing down the Okavango River.
Ooh, in Africa. So you might have seen alligators and crocodiles.
Hippos.
And hippos, all sorts of animals. What an exciting thing. And of course, met interesting people and been in interesting situations. It says, while you travel, so imagine you might be sitting in the boat or going in other areas of the Taijiang National Park. While you travel, you hear the sounds of birds and insects, some of which you probably can't see because of the green tunnel, but you hear the sounds of birds and insects and see mud skippers and fiddler crabs. These will be scuttling around or jumping around in the mud on the side of the river there.
And this all sounds really cool.
It does.
But there's something even cooler to come.
Okay.
The article says you've almost completed your passage when you reach the main event. Okay, now a passage in this case, a passage could be another word for a tunnel, especially like inside a building.
Or a hallway.
Yeah, exactly, that's a passage. But here we mean a journey, usually by ship or boat, to a place.
Okay.
We don't often use the word so much these days when we're flying by planes, taking cars, but if you were on a boat trip, you'd say this is going to be a 3-month passage around Africa into Asia, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So this is a shorter trip, this is a shorter passage, but you're on a boat, you're taking a journey, so it's a passage. Here's another example. It was a 6-day passage from Southampton to New York by ship.
Okay.
Look out for icebergs.
Yes, definitely. This is the sort of thing they might have used back in the day of the Titanic. When people didn't fly across the ocean, they took boats, or it was a certain length of time. That passage, that trip from one place to another. What would we see as we reach the end of the passage? There are beautiful trees clearly reflected in the calm water below. Wow, so remember this water we're traveling on, this isn't ocean water. There aren't a lot of waves. It's not in a big open lake where the wind can, move the water. We're in a very narrow sort of river or stream. It's covered with trees, so the water is probably very calm. It just moves when boats go through or when a few animals splash around. But normally the water is so calm, I guess it almost acts like a mirror. Amazing. And I got the idea of a mirror because we use this verb to reflect. It reflects the light or it reflects the sky. When something reflects, it basically hits something and bounces back. We generally use this word when talking about things like light or possibly sound. But if you think of a mirror, when you look at a mirror, you see yourself. Now, are you in the mirror? No, that would be some kind of weird magic. No, what's happening is light rays are bouncing off the special glass in the mirror and going into your eye, and so the mirror is reflecting that light and reflecting what it sees. In other words, you as you stand in front. So shiny things often reflect. Glass reflects, of course. You don't need a mirror to see yourself. You can look in a piece of glass, like a store window, as you walk down the street. Other things, the other kinds of glass, your phone, right? Some people call a phone a black mirror, because if you hold up your phone when the screen is off, again, your face, the light is reflected in the screen. Water reflects things. We can think of the sun shining off the water. And metal also, if you polish metal really, really well, it can act almost like a mirror. In fact, Romans used metal as mirrors because they didn't have glass mirrors. All of these things, though, reflect light very well. Now, water and light do reflect each other, right? Light reflects off the water. This is a very normal thing, but it's kind of hard to imagine what we would see there in this place without looking at a picture. But the story tries to describe it.
Yeah, it says the actual world and the mirror world below combine to create the shape of a lip or an eye. So this sort of mirroring thing, down below, up above, it's all kind of combining together. Now, the mirror world is the bottom bit, is the water. That's not the real part, that's just showing the image, and it's showing the image of the actual world at the top. We use the word actual to emphasize that this is the real one. This is not imaginary, it's not part of a plan or an idea or a picture. This is the real thing. So real world or actual world, and then mirror world, where kind of everything is opposite and left hand is right hand and all the rest.
Right, okay.
Okay, so you might say to someone, for example, you mean this is the actual umbrella that Rihanna used in her video for that song.
That's the umbrella.
That's the one.
That's the one, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the actual umbrella.
Yeah, so this creates this thing, and some people say it's an eye, and some say it's a lip.
Oh.
And that leads to its names.
That's right. Some call it the angel's kiss, while others call it green eye. All right, so I can imagine here we have the mangroves here. That's what we can see in the real world. Here's the water, and so the reflection would be almost the same. So we get like a mouth kissing or an, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to see that.
Yeah, well, no matter what you call it, the article says it's absolutely stunning. The word absolutely means 100%, basically. We often use this adverb when very or really doesn't quite work. And we often use it with strong adjectives. We wouldn't say absolutely hot, because hot is not a strong adjective. We wouldn't say absolutely big, because big is not a strong adjective. But we would say absolutely huge, absolutely enormous, absolutely boiling hot, that kind of thing. So it's just like very or really, but we pair it with a strong adjective to mean even more so, 100% amazingly something. And in this case, the strong adjective we're using is the word stunning.
That's right. Stunning is kind of like that word arresting that we saw in yesterday's article. It will stop you in your tracks. It will make you go, wow, look at that. You'll probably pull out your camera. You'll probably tell people about it. If you look for pictures of this place or thing online, you'll probably find them because many people want to capture this amazing, beautiful view or situation or image because it just makes you go, wow, it's amazing, it's incredible, it's arresting, it's stunning. That's what we're talking about. So bring your camera, in other words.
Absolutely. Okay, so with that lovely bit of visual description, we have finished day 2 of the article, which means we're now going to go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So our question is, what other places in Taiwan or other parts of the world do you think have natural beauty? Talk about them.
Wow, that's a great question. We could talk about this for hours. We'll all start with an obvious one, and I know it to be true. Every time I've taken my foreign friends and family to Taroko Gorge, they all go, wow, because it's amazing. I mean, you kind of have to go back there every few years. It's so narrow, but the rock walls are so high. It's really quite a special and unique place. So I would definitely put that at the top of my list for Taiwan.
Okay, in terms of the rest of the world, one place that I'll always remember is New Zealand. Just walking,
beautiful.
and I didn't even go to the South Island where it's even nicer.
Yeah.
I was just on the North Island, but even then, walking outside the cities, leaving the cities behind, going to some of the more natural areas, a beautiful lake, a great hot springs kind of town, just going around the sort of forest area, it seemed like the word green wasn't quite enough.
Wow.
There needed to be new words to describe just how green, just how natural these parts and places were.
Interesting.
So, it felt like I needed to come up with something better than, it's very green here. That just wasn't really describing it well enough.
Very New Zealand.
Yeah.
Just make that the word for more green.
Ferns everywhere, interesting trees,
Beautiful.
all kinds of great stuff. So that's just a couple of examples. As Mike said, we could go on for a long time about places with natural beauty, but we are out of time. Thanks for watching today, everybody. For English For You, I'm Pat.
I'm Mike.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Vocabulary Review.
Tunnel. The tunnel allows cars to drive right through the mountain. Tourist. It's best to avoid this beach on weekends because many tourists come here and it's always busy. Mystery. People have admired the mystery of the smile on Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa for hundreds of years. Adventure. James wants to have an adventure, so he's planning a trip to Iceland, where he will climb mountains. Passage. We're taking a boat from Kaohsiung to Magong. It will take about 4 hours to complete the passage. Actual. My grandmother doesn't like using ATMs. She prefers to go into the bank to speak to an actual person.
智慧小补帖。
Mangrove. Reflect. Absolutely. Absolutely. Stunning.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net